Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, President Biden says the United States stands with Israel in the wake of the Hamas terrorist attacks. And on World Mental Health Day, a light is being shined on how parents and caregivers can promote mental health and well-being in children.
Plus, we are tracking dry weather in the short term, but rain chances are back by this weekend. Your forecast on the way as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. The death toll in the fighting between Israel and Hamas has climbed to at least 1,900 on both sides, but another day of relentless airstrikes is expected to push that number higher. At least 14 Americans are among the dead. President Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today and addressed the crisis publicly from the White House. CBS's Natalie Brand is there.
Israel is carrying out punishing airstrikes in Gaza as its Iron Dome intercepts incoming missiles from Hamas. The Israeli military says the air assaults are designed to cause maximum destruction in areas where it says Hamas terrorists congregate. Hundreds of targets were hit in Hamas stronghold Ramallah. Even Gaza's main port was struck. Security experts say for Israel, this fight is unlike previous rounds with Hamas.
Israel has to win this one conclusively so that no one else, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran, tries to test it in this way in the future.
We stand with Israel.
Speaking at the White House, President Biden reiterated U.S. support for Israel.
We will make sure the Jewish and democratic state of Israel can defend itself today, tomorrow, as we always have.
The U.S. is surging additional military assistance, including ammunition and missile interceptors. It's also sharing intelligence to help with hostage recovery. Americans are among the captives.
Hostages whom Hamas has now threatened to execute.
We are looking for our son. We have to find our son.
Laor Abramoff was at the music festival that came under attack. He took refuge in a bomb shelter and is missing.
He spoke with a witness that saw him taken away on a pickup truck.
As rockets light up the night sky, there has also been deadly fire with Hezbollah along Israel's border with Lebanon, fueling concerns about the conflict expanding. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Along with flight suspensions, cruise liners are adjusting itineraries in the area. FedEx stopped deliveries in Israel, and many fashion retail stores are temporarily closed. 2 local journalists were killed in an Israeli airstrike at a building in the western part of the Gaza Strip. Saeed al-Tawil and Mohammed Sabah lost their lives in the airstrike covering the evacuation of a threatened building. The Hamas-controlled GMO says both were clearly identifiable as media members. They were wearing safety gear and distinctive journalist markings, which the office says should have been easily discernible to the aircraft. House GOP members are eager to avoid a drawn-out spectacle like this past January when it took 15 votes to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. So they are holding a series of closed-door meetings right now and tomorrow morning, hoping to come to an agreement amongst themselves on who should be the next Speaker of the House before taking the nominations to the House floor for a public vote. CBS's Michael George has the latest.
House Republicans are meeting behind closed doors, hoping to unify behind one candidate for Speaker of the House in order to avoid a repeat of January, when it took 15 votes on the House floor to elect Kevin McCarthy.
I think we're going to do this within the Republican family behind closed doors because, quite frankly, I don't want to repeat what we did on the floor with multiple candidates, and neither did the candidates that are up.
Majority Leaders Steve Scalise of Louisiana and Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan are the leading contenders, making their pitch to Republican colleagues. But neither have the support of the majority, raising concerns that this could be a protracted battle.
There's going to have to be a real reckoning within the conference here about the path forward.
The House can't vote on any legislation until a speaker is elected. Lawmakers can't even put out a resolution officially denouncing the war in Israel.
We've got to get back on track. This is a dangerous world right now. Let me say it again. We stand strongly with Israel. The House needs to get back to work.
President Biden is calling on Congress to pass a bill sending more weapons to Israel to use in its war against Hamas.
We're going to ask them to take urgent action to fund the national security requirements of our critical partners. This is not about party or politics. This is about the security of our world.
The White House may also try to include aid for Ukraine in a bill providing aid for Israel. While there is broad support within the House Republican caucus to support Israel, there's a growing list of GOP members opposed to spending more money on the war in Ukraine. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The Congress received a secure briefing about the war in Israel earlier this afternoon ahead of the GOP House Republican meeting to talk about the Speaker election. Kentucky Congressman Andy Barr says he supports Representative Steve Scalise for House Speaker, but could get behind Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan if Jordan comes out on top in the voting. In what could be a key battleground in the presidential election next November, President Biden and former President Donald Trump are in a dead heat in the race for Nevada. A new CNN poll of registered voters in Nevada were asked online and by phone about a hypothetical 2024 matchup, and there was no clear leader. 46% say they support Biden, while 45% say they are in favor of Trump. SSRS conducted the poll. You may not expect Amazon's Alexa to weigh in on politics, but she has. The popular voice assistant has been claiming that the 2020 election was stolen. When asked about fraud in the race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, Alexa said it was, quote, stolen by a massive amount of election fraud. It cited Rumble as its source, which is a YouTube alternative favored by MAGA conservatives. Former baseball star Steve Garvey has entered the U.S. Senate race in California. The 74-year-old Republican hopeful played 14 seasons with the Los Angeles Dodgers and 5 more with the San Diego Padres. The 10-time All-Star appeared in the World Series 5 times, leading the Dodgers past the Yankees in 1981. In a video launching his campaign today, Garvey said it's, quote, time to get back in the game. He says his focus will be on quality of life issues, public safety, and education. The Supreme Court decided against revisiting the landmark First Amendment decision in New York Times versus Sullivan. There was a request to take another look at the decades-old precedent that created a higher bar for public figures to claim libel in civil suits. The media world has for years relied on the unanimous decision in the 1964 case. It helps fend off costly defamation lawsuits brought by public figures.
We are tracking some beautiful weather across the mountains into your Tuesday evening. Here's a live look from Pikeville to Hazard to London, and check that out. Not a cloud in the sky across the region right now, and those temperatures are very comfortable in the middle to upper 60s. Also a little bit breezy as well. Those winds out of the west up to 10 miles per hour, so a little bit breezy, but check this out. Doesn't get much better for early October. 70 for Manchester, 71 for Middlesboro, 66 in Pikeville, and 68 over in Irvine at this hour. So we are very comfortable this evening, and some warmer weather is on the way. Up on the radar, we are dry, all thanks to high pressure. As we zoom out, and this high pressure system will linger for a few more days, so we are dry for Wednesday, Thursday, and most of Friday. But this front will move back to the north as a warm front, so some warmer weather on the way, also an increase in those rain chances by this weekend. But until then, we are warming up and drying out for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and again, those rain chances do return by this weekend. Also not looking great for the viewing of that partial solar eclipse on Saturday. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. The state of Utah is suing the social media platform TikTok, claiming it's a danger to children. Utah's governor and attorney general announced the lawsuit today, claiming TikTok illegally baits children into addictive and unhealthy use, misrepresents the app's safety, and deceptively portrays itself as independent of its China-based parent company. State officials say prolonged use of TikTok interferes with children's mental health and well-being.
We're tired of TikTok lying to parents. We're tired of our kids losing their innocence and even their lives addicted to the dark side of social media. So, once again, this lawsuit is our escalation of a battle for the hearts and minds of our sons and daughters. We have a compelling case against TikTok. our kids are absolutely worth the fight.
Utah was the first state to pass legislation limiting access to social media for those 18 and younger. That new law takes effect March 1st of next year. Today is World Mental Health Day, and advocates say it is a universal human right. We are hearing from experts who tell us mental health conditions are affecting an increasing number of adolescents and especially young people. Kelsey Soto has more.
The World Health Organization estimates 1 in 8 people globally are living with mental health conditions. That can impact your physical health, your well-being, and even livelihoods. The numbers are even higher for young males.
There's a lot of weight on young men, whether it's following in a father's footsteps or not having a father figure at all, to learn how to be a productive member of society.
Surveys show almost 1/3 of Americans say they have been diagnosed with depression at some point in their life. That's up 10 percentage points in just 8 years.
Whether it's work or whether it's relationships or whether it's being a new dad, there are so many things that go in for young men and their mental health, and sometimes I do feel like maybe it's put a little bit on the back burner, and that's probably the demographic that is the least likely to actually reach out and ask for help.
Right now, there's about 65 million Americans with a mental illness. About 60% aren't even receiving treatment. Adam Harold says there are barriers to access that they're trying to break.
You're dealing with a certain population that maybe doesn't have access to transportation, or maybe they don't have even access to be able to get an ID. Those are like little things that to your normal everyday folk, they're not that big of a deal, but to a large demographic of people just in our community and the communities around, those are a really big deal.
That was Kelsey Soto reporting. As for treatment and meeting with a therapist or counselor, many providers offer fee schedules. They may be able to take payment based on a sliding scale depending on income or ability to pay. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we'll have our Watching Your Wallet segment.
Plus, temperatures are back above average by Thursday and Friday before some chilly weather for this weekend. Those details coming up.